Hello, everybody. I'm Connor, and welcome to my spoiler-rific review of Justice League, the 2017 superhero film that was kind of directed by Zack Snyder. He had to step away from it. Joss Whedon came in and wrote and directed the reshoots, which heavily altered the final film. This is a film starring Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill, Gal Gadot, Ray Fisher, Ezra Miller, Jason Momoa, Amy Adams, Diane Lane, Jeremy Irons, Ciaran Hinds, um, several other people. Amber Heard's in there, and it tells the story of the Justice League, the heroes, the big heroes of the DC universe: Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Flash, Cyborg. They need to team up to stop Steppenwolf, who is a space demon of the fourth world, and he is trying to get three mother boxes, which are MacGuffins on Earth, and he is trying to bring apocalypse to Earth, and we got to stop him. Also, Superman's going to be in there somewhere. This is a direct follow-up to Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, which was Zack Snyder's previous film from March of last year. The production of this is notorious at this point because of the extremely reactionary way in which Warner Brothers handled their film division. Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice was a Zack Snyder film, and it was meant to really kickstart this universe. Man of Steel was the test run. It was successful enough. Batman v Superman was how they were going to expand this DC universe on film. And critics didn't like it, and it did not do as well in theaters as they wanted it to. So as a result, they hit the panic button. WB hit the panic button, and Suicide Squad was heavily altered to be more fun and upbeat. And then Wonder Woman was more or less just the same movie that they I didn't really hear of any production mishaps with that, and that turned out well. Suicide Squad also was a pretty big critical dud, and it did all right. It did at the box office. It did well enough, and now we have Justice League, which has it's Monday, so earlier today or yesterday. Today we got the actuals. Yesterday we got the estimates of its opening weekend box office, and it was a dud. It stunk. It didn't even open with $100 million. It got 96 million. And you think, oh, wow, 96 million, that's a pretty big opening. Not for this movie. Because of its crazy production, this thing cost $300 million, which ties it with Pirates of the Caribbean 3, as the most expensive film ever made. And Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End came out 10 years ago. Actually, a little over 10 years ago now. That came out in summer of 2007. And this is fall of 2017. So basically what happened was Justice League was supposed to go right into production like a week after Batman v Superman hit theaters. And since they didn't expect Batman v Superman to get as bad of a reception as it did, there were immediate mandates of, okay, you need to make it less dark, you need to make it more upbeat, you need to make it, everyone seems to be thinking the dour thing is a bad thing. And I don't like, yeah, Batman v Superman was a bad movie, but it wasn't a bad movie because it was dark. It's not really a dark movie. It wasn't bad because it was dark, it was bad because it was bad. And that's not what anyone else seemed to think, that the people making the decisions. So they pushed for a rewrite of the script, and they still wanted to keep that production schedule though, so a heavily altered version of this movie went on in as they were making it. So they had this initial vision, they did all the pre-production, all that for this movie they were going to make, and then right before starting production, now it's going to be your vision number 2, here's what's going to look like now. And then a family tragedy occurred. My sympathies and condolences are with the Snyders in their time of grieving, but Zack Snyder had to step down after a family tragedy. And as a result, they got Joss Whedon, who is the writer-director of The Avengers and The Avengers Age of Ultron. For Marvel, he came on in and did reshoots. He directed the reshoots, and he wrote the reshoots, which included a lot of scenes. And this is, vision number 3. So this is like 3 different, like 3 visions removed of what it was. And so this is the new thing that they're doing. And I guess I'll just get into my broad strokes of how I feel about the DC universe. I think Man of Steel is a bad movie. I think it's a really bad movie, actually, but I used to love it at one point. It came out the summer I graduated high school, and I kind of have a special connection with that. If I don't really think about that movie all that much, I can still revert back to a nostalgic place in my mind of, I remember when I loved this. And for what it's worth, it has some incredible special effects. It gets excessive and kind of tasteless, honestly, during the big climax, but it never stops looking good. It's not how I want a Superman movie to look, but that's mostly just a taste thing. Like, it does look pretty good, especially the CG. Especially in the big climaxes. I think once it gets to Zod and Superman like flailing around, it gets a little like balloon person like, and then the stuff on Krypton hasn't aged particularly well. And then Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, I have a review on my channel. I think that's a terrible movie, but it's interesting. that's the thing. It is too interesting for me to hate. I can't hate that movie, although I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense. I think that it has a horrible villain in Lex Luthor. I really don't like its depiction of Batman. I think it's what this movie does to Superman irks me beyond belief, because Superman is my favorite superhero, and it really doesn't work to me as a follow-up to Man of Steel. A lot of the character stuff in Man of Steel doesn't even really follow, like, what even happened to the Codex? Heck if I know. And then Suicide Squad, I remember watching that in the theater going, oh my goodness, this is a terrible movie. I hate this. It is a compromised, very bad movie, I feel, and I really grossly dislike that movie on almost every aspect. I think that it is David Ayer getting screwed over, but I also don't think his original version would have been that good. Then we got Wonder Woman. It's pretty good. Everyone likes it. A lot of people love it. I don't love it. I think it's got some problems, especially with the way it's incorporated in this universe. And it's not because I dislike this universe. I do dislike this universe, but what I dislike is she goes on this journey and has a sense of discovery that we've already established in this universe, that she had to disappear for 100 years. So she has this big journey of self-discovery, and then it doesn't really mean anything, because then she just has to go into hiding for 100 years. I didn't quite like that, but I did like a lot about it. I really liked Chris Pine. I really liked how open-minded it was, and how it was about accepting people's shades of gray, and people aren't all good or all bad, and it's all about choice and belief. And I really liked that stuff. I didn't think the action was particularly good, and the stuff at the end got a little, of course, we got to have a big end of the world situation, but whatever. It was a good movie, and I thought it was mostly well directed. I liked Gal Gadot. I thought she was impressive, and Chris Pine I thought was really good in the movie as well. And Ewan Bremner was there, and I thought that it was a really good team-up movie, better team movie than Suicide Squad. It was better origin than Man of Steel, and it was just found it to be a better social, political discussion than Batman v Superman. So now we got Justice League. So what did I think of Justice League? I love DC Comics. I haven't really liked the movies up until this point, but I can't help but get a little bit excited about this movie. Well, guys, we can stop our search for the worst comic book movie ever made, because we found it, and it's called Justice League. I movie with a passion. I hated this movie. And I know a lot of people don't. I know this movie has been getting not a lot of people going out to see it, but people who have gone out to see it have said that, yeah, it's fine, it's okay, meh, yeah, it's not very good, but it's not as bad as Batman v Superman, it's not as bad as Suicide Squad. But I think it is. And I think it's bad because, and I think it's worse than that because, heck, I even think this is worse than Fant4stic, the Josh Trank Fantastic Four movie from 2015. So the reason I will say this is why I like Batman v Superman and why I like Fant4stic more than this movie is because Fant4stic, it probably wasn't going to be a good movie with Josh Trank's original vision, but it would have been interesting. I think it would have at least been worth discussing and taking on its own merits and saying, yeah, it doesn't work, but there's reasons why we could talk about it on its own merits. As is, it's just, this compromised thing, and it sucks, and it's ugly, and it's boring, and it doesn't make any sense. But it's at least interesting to like watch as a train wreck. I was like, oh my goodness, what am I watching? And the big stupid climax is hilarious. And Batman v Superman is somebody's vision. It is somebody wanted to make this movie, and they thought it was great, and it has so much confidence, and it stumbles on its face so hard. But I think that's interesting. It is still a piece of art. You know what I mean? It doesn't work that well. I don't think it hardly makes any sense by the time you get to the end of it. But it's somebody's vision, and it's somebody's story. Somebody wanted to tell that. And so I find that interesting. And this movie, because of its production, was a compromise from the start in the state that it is. And I don't think that original version would have been good. And as after all the reshoots, after everything that happened to it, it got a studio mandate to be under 2 hours. And I think that was because so they could fit more showings a day. I think that'll only amount to like one showing a day. In theaters, so that it could make ideally more money, which just sounds like an accountant ledger to me. Like, what is this? That's really crazy. I don't know when that mandate was put into place, but that came out recently, so it must have been a recent development. I feel like with all the announcements DC has been making, with all these different movies they're going to throw around, that they knew they had a dud on their hands and they wanted to get passes as soon as possible, and they might have been expecting losses on this, and they've been preparing, because I was expecting like some big press release today or something, and it never came. So I think they've been preparing for this for some time. Oh well, let's see what they go from here, but I'm just going to talk about Justice League. Broadly, I have a couple pages of notes, and got my handy dandy giant pitcher of water as per usual. I'm gonna drink all of this, so not all of it at once. So I'm going to start broadly, and then I'll work my way into the details. Broadly speaking, I think this is the worst superhero movie ever. Now take that with as many grains of salt as you would like. I have not seen Catwoman. I have not seen Elektra. I have not seen Superman 3. I have not seen Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. I have not seen Supergirl. I have not seen Steel. I have not seen Green Lantern. I have not seen what a lot of people consider to be the worst superhero movies ever. Now, that being said, I have seen a decent amount of superhero movies. And, hi, Joel. Hi, Nathan. Sorry. I have seen my fair share of Superman. You guys are live. Hello. I have seen my fair share of superhero movies, and I hated everything about this. Now everybody seems to, as I said before, everybody seems to be giving this a pass. But I've talked to some people, and they agree with me. So I'm here to balance the scales and try to do it in a way that isn't rambly and incoherent. I'm going to try to not be rambly and incoherent. So I structured this. Damn it. All right, so on top of being the worst comic book movie I've ever seen, I think this is the worst looking film I've seen all year, and at least in some time, and it's the worst looking comic book movie I've ever seen. I think Wes Craven's 1982 Swamp Thing movie looks better than this. Yeah, you can see the rubber, suit when it wrinkles up when they have to like move, and like the arcane animal monster mask like doesn't blink, and it looks like somebody's just wearing a costume. But the sets are good. When the boats explode, they look good. This doesn't look that good. I think this is amongst the worst looking movies I've ever seen. This movie kept coming up with new ways to look hideous. And, film is a visual medium. It would make sense if this didn't have a big budget. And I know that the $300 million budgets, you can say reshoots, you can cry production fouls. But that being said, I hear $300 million and I see this, inexcusable. Absolutely inexcusable. One of tied with the most expensive movie ever made. Pirates of the Caribbean 3, 10 years ago, looks threefold better than this movie could ever possibly look. That I saw that movie this year for the first time in a long time because of Pirates 5. That movie looks incredible. And that movie's not a very good movie, but like Batman v Superman, at least Pirates 3 is interesting. It was somebody's unadulterated vision come to life, as excessive and nonsensical as it is. One sec, I'm going to read some live comments. Got actually 5 viewers, more than I was expecting right now. Based on the box office for Justice League, I think there's going to be some huge setbacks for the DCEU, says Nathan Snyder. I think they've been preparing for this, as I said earlier. Nathan Snyder says he enjoys Superman 3 for what, despite its major problems. That's cool. I have not seen it yet. I want to get around to that soon. Yeah, Pirates of the Caribbean 3 made twice as more than this movie did. That's a great bit of information to know. At least Pirates 3, they gave that movie like a budget when they knew it would make its money back. Yeesh, that's actually kind of funny. Anyways, so let's talk about the green screen and lighting in this movie, because holy crap. I thought when I watched The Hitman's Bodyguard earlier this year that would be the worst green screen compositing and lighting mess-ups that I would see all year. Boy, was I wrong. At least you didn't see the gain, like the visual noise in the shadows in this movie that you did in Hitman's Bodyguard, but I'll take that over what we got here. And the horrid green screen makes the reshoots stick out all the more. They should have delayed this thing a certain more time on the visual design, because as is, it's broken. You see a wide shot of Batman and Aquaman talking to each other. Aquaman is in the water and Bruce Wayne is standing on the beach. Wide shot, looks fine. Close-up of Aquaman, oh my goodness, what is this, Baywatch? And speaking of Baywatch, this movie has worse CGI than Baywatch. I tell you what, when I watched Baywatch, I thought, there's no possible way I'm going to see a movie with worse green screen and CG than this movie. Well, I saw Justice League. And maybe it's because this movie has so much more of it, and maybe it's just as bad, but it's more of this movie that has that bad special effects. And Joel Davis says he has a soft spot for Pirates 3. Yeah, I kind of have a soft spot for it too. It's interesting. It's not that good, but it's very interesting. Gore Verbinski, he makes flawed movies, but Gore Verbinski is an interesting artist. I really liked A Cure for Wellness this year. I thought it was kind of special. I'll get to that later, Nathan. So I think there's something that I've heard other people mention, so I won't be the first to bring this up. When you have an idea for a movie, say what you will about Zack Snyder, I don't like the choices he makes when he's like, here's what the movie's going to look like. A lot of it is, gray and whatnot, but I don't like those decisions. However, that being said, for what they are, they look good. His shot composition and his eye for cinematography is really good. I don't think he's a good storyteller. He never uses close-up. He always uses close-ups, and he rarely uses a wide or establishing shot in conversations. I'm thinking of, in this movie in particular, when we're just in GCPD. There's no establishing shot for it. We're just there. Oh, guess we're in GCPD. I know that J.K. Simmons is playing Commissioner Gordon in this movie, but if I didn't, I'd be like, oh, it's J.K. Simmons. I wonder who he is. Oh, he's Gordon. Weird. You'd think we'd get an establishing shot for GCPD. Kind of like in Batman v Superman. Oh, that movie was made for the fans. Hey, as a fan, maybe I want to see the Daily Planet building. We never get an establishing shot of the Daily Planet building in any of these movies. Weird. Oh, Nero Cole is here. He says he liked Ezra Miller. I have a soft spot for Perks, but good Lord, is he just awful here. I'm going to get into Ezra Miller later. And Joel Davis brought up pan. Oh yeah, no, pan back the camera. Yeah, it's a lot of oppressive close-ups, especially Batman v Superman. I think it's marginally better here, but it is a lot of medium and close-up shots, especially in the action scenes, which is disappointing. So I'm going to get into the incorrect color correction now. So when you build sets and you design your visual design of this movie, you build sets and you design costumes so that when they are lit a certain way, they will look a certain way, especially in post-production. You add filters, and then you have color correction, and that's all in post, and then you have something that looks pretty good in what I think is Batman v Superman. I don't like the decisions they made, the creative choices behind the way it looks, but as a subjective point, yeah, I don't really like the way they chose to make this movie look. As is, for what it is, it looks pretty good. This doesn't. This is extreme reaction of, oh my goodness, brighten it up, brighten it up. It's got to be bright and colorful. And so as a result, you go back and you watch those original trailers. There's the Batmobile driving through not Chernobyl, just some Russian place that is mostly deserted because we can't have too much collateral damage. People freaked out about Man of Steel. If you look at that, the sky is gray and blue, and the buildings are lit from beneath. They're lower lit by fire, and they changed that so that the sky is red, and that it is kind of not even really overlit. Everything is just sort of like the same level of lit by the red sky, and that provides for an image that is extraordinarily flat and not the way this movie was supposed to look. So as a result, this movie looks made for TV. Also, what makes it look for TV is the medium, the predominantly medium and close-up shots, but also the 16:9 aspect ratio. It went for that full 16:9, kind of what you are watching this on right now. I didn't like that choice for the Avengers. I really don't like it here. And the Avengers, as much of a TV show as it looked, it was cinematic, especially in that final action scene. And in Avengers: Age of Ultron, you know, I think it has better cinema. I think it has a different cinematographer. It has better cinematography, and they have the 122 to 1 Pana. I think it's what Panavision aspect ratio, and it looks like a movie. And all the other DCEU films, I think, were in that same aspect ratio, and they look cinematic. This movie does not look cinematic. And, you know, a lot of that's in the cinematography choices. A lot of that is in the, what's it called? The aspect ratio choice. But a lot of that does come down to the way this movie has been digitally and artificially brightened in post-production. Big no-no. Also, this just shows off all the design flaws. So it felt like almost like watching a behind-the-scenes featurette and like looking at these costumes the way you're not supposed to look at these costumes. The thing that really comes up in my mind is you can see when people have to wear a Batman costume, they have to raccoon their eyes, black around their eyes, so that when they put on the Batman mask, you know, it's not skin tone with their eyes. And so it kind of has a comic book look of how it just is a black mask that goes into their eyes. And here you can, because, okay, you can see the raccooning of their eyes, but where it's heavier on some makeup and brighter on some of the other makeup. Now what you do though is they're saying, okay, we're going to make it darker here and a little bit brighter here because there's going to be more shadow here and more light here. So when we light the scene, it will appear more consistent. And then when we put it to post and we color correct it, it will have a consistent look. If we make it all dark, then it's going to look darker here than it will on your mask. So this is how they have that. And also the Flash has bright, very lightly applied red paint around his eyes for, you know, that kind of go into his mask. I don't think the way the movie was, what I assume it was supposed to look like was you don't really see the red paint in his eyes, but that was there for a specific choice of lighting. And they just threw that up and they went, nope, we're going to light it a different way, the way it's not supposed to be lit. We're going to digitally color this movie the way it's not supposed to be colored, so it looks remarkably cheap. And on top of that, there's like things and like patches on their costumes that I don't think you're supposed to see from these angles. So that was mind-bogglingly. And so that's why I keep saying this movie kept inventing new ways for it to look awful. Like, say what I will about how bad Baywatch and The Hitman's Bodyguard look, they look better than this. They look like they were, those movies look the way they were supposed to look. And the CG and the green screen effects hurt the way those movies looked. At least the practical stuff looked like a movie. This looks like cosplay. This looks like people, like actors in suits on a set. This doesn't look like I am in this world and these are the Justice League members. Good night. I'm gonna read some more comments while I'm drinking this thing. Looks like everyone is having kind of a comment. I got 3 commenters right now. They're talking about their cinematography they like. And they're talking about New Gods. No real questions right now, but that's okay. I'll get into that later. So that's a lot of what I had to say regarding the visual design of this movie. And I think that, well, not all I had to say. That's the big stuff. It looked, the practical and the computer effects are bad, and it all came from a place of panic where their production and post-production philosophies and visions were completely removed from that original vision and the pre-production stuff, which is not how you make a movie. Also, $300 million, and it looks like this. Unbelievable. I touched on this earlier. This was never anybody's vision, and it was a compromise from the start, and it shows. I've heard rumors of what that original 2-parter Justice League was supposed to be, and it sounds like what I would imagine Snyder would go for. It would tie back into that weird Mad Max vision that Batman has, and Flash coming in from the future and telling Batman that Lois is the key and that he was right to fear him all along, whatever that meant. And so I think that was what the case was. And then it was supposed to be 2 parts, and then it was condensed to 1 part. And then that was like, that 1 part was just radically changed throughout. What I'm saying is, what I can see from the Snyder stuff, and what I'm assuming is the Snyder stuff, and to the movie's credit, this bastardization, they did a good job of screwing over both visions. There's enough of a vision from Whedon in the reshoots that I'll get to here in a minute. But whatever this mangling is, I don't think the Snyder version was going to be very good. And this weird, like, living monster that the reshoots and post-production became, I don't think it would have been that good. It turned this into a not good movie. So that's a big thing. Josh Trank had a vision for Fantastic Four. It might have not been very good, but it was his unique vision, and the stuff that shines through in that movie, it's at least interesting. The stuff that kind of gets through here is bland, generic superhero team-up movie. And I'm going to get into, now that I've kind of did the broad stuff, I'm going to get into the detailed stuff about the story and plot. So I'm gonna check out this. The questions, the live feed. Nero Cole asks, how do you make the call to not delay this? I don't know. I think they wanted to get this over with as soon as possible. They had this release date, and they stuck with it. They should have maybe delayed it till March or April. I think they might have made more money then. You know, people see how bad reviews. I mean, they're not as bad reviews as Suicide Squad, but people were so turned off by Suicide Squad and Batman versus Superman, they probably were just thinking, it's November, I'll save my money. We're going to go see Star Wars instead. Instead of seeing both Star Wars, we're just going to save our money so we can spend more money on Star Wars, possibly. Why was there a Green Lantern randomly in the flashback battle with Steppenwolf and it's never brought up again? Where was the current one in the present? Asks Nathan Snyder. Hell if I know. That's just there to be like, guys, it's a Green Lantern. Fan service. This is for the fans. Yeah, I agree with Nathan. He says that he's read the Zack Snyder stuff and that they didn't sound very good either. Oh, and then Joel Davis asks, wonder if Lucasfilm is looking at Justice League and wondering maybe we should delay Solo. I don't know, because the reshoots started enough ahead of schedule, and Ron Howard is a very efficient filmmaker. So efficient is not really in Zack Snyder or Joss Whedon's vocabulary as a filmmaker. Okay, let's get into the details. So I'm gonna get into plot stuff and stuff. So the opening scene is a clearly reshot scene with what looks like an entirely CG Superman shot on what's supposed to be Snapchat or some kind of social media thing. It's in, of course, the kid's shooting this because it's vertical and not horizontal. That bugs me beyond belief, but whatever. That's just a pet peeve of mine. And then they ask Superman what his favorite thing about Earth is. And then he kind of looks up to the sky, and then the scene's over. So what this is supposed to do is it begins a motif of the sky. And the sky motif comes up a couple of times. What I've only seen this movie one time. Was it's in the opening scene and then it comes again where Superman is resurrected, and it's during the dawn. It was dark, and now the sun is coming out, and it is bringing us into the light. We also get a red sky, which is supposed to evoke fanboy, oh my gosh, guys, it's a crisis. We get that during the battle with Steppenwolf at the end, and then in the final shot, we look up to the sky, and it is nice and bright, and the sun and light has come out. And it almost feels like this is a contract with the audience saying this movie is bringing us from the darkness that is the superficial darkness that is Batman v Superman and the old DCU, and bringing us to the light. This is what's going to be new, and this is all juxtaposed with Lois Lane's monologue. And we also see images of, look at guys, Cyborg looks like Cyborg. Look at guys, it's Aquaman. Oh, Barry Allen got a job at the crime lab. We get all that sort of stuff. So that's what this thing is supposed to do. And the thing, though, is it's very obvious to me all this was added in as reshoots and late in the game, because all this stuff feels like there was a foundation, and we're just sort of like, that was kind of wonky and wobbly. And then they put stuff on top of it that was supposed to make it look more cohesive, but nothing really in the meat of the story really brings that out. Nothing. There's barely a story here, but like the characters talk about Superman, and it's the way these characters talk and the way this movie almost operates on a story level of what story there is like, it's like we're doing a direct sequel and a plot sequel to Batman v Superman. Okay, makes sense. That's the way this was originally going to be. But this more like visually thematic sort of linchpin, it doesn't really hold together very well, and it really does kind of feel more like an idea. And I feel like I might even be reading too much into that. But that's what I'm getting at, and I didn't like that. And the opening scene feels like it was just sort of like put onto the beginning, then we'll have the end, and it's kind of sandwiched there. We'll sprinkle in a little bit here, but then we reshot other scenes to make it more shorter and more cohesive, and we're trying to truncate stuff here, but the stuff that maybe Joss Whedon was trying to add in as a writer to be creative and interject his he's a decent writer, and interject his writing does feel like he's trying to add something there, but it doesn't really click with anything else because he probably just came up with it. And so, nice try, Joss, but I'm sorry, it just doesn't really click in the end. Because reshoots, $300 million. So the next scene is stupid. The next scene is our opening introduction to Batman. Oh man, this scene sucks. Okay, so here's the way it starts. One of my favorite character actors, I don't know his name. He's always, it's that guy. He's always not in very good movies. He was in Black Hat, which is like the worst movie ever. And he was actually in Alien 3 when he was a younger man. He's the lead on a show called Mindhunter right now on Netflix. But he's a good actor. I really like him. I'd like to see him play Harvey Bullock maybe sometime. My brother brought that up, and I thought that was a good idea. But this man, he comes out, and he's a criminal, and he's a burglar, and he's a burglar because he's got a big sack over his shoulder, and he's coming out of somebody's window, and he turns around, and there's Batman standing there looking at him, and he drops it and pulls a gun on Batman, and then Batman stops him. And then you're like, okay, this is our introduction to Batman. We're going to have this little scene. The fight choreography isn't good because this is obviously a reshoot. Or I think maybe, I don't know. The fight choreography isn't very good either way. And then he dangles him over the side of a building. And then he says, they smell fear. And then a parademon shows up. And then he pulls the guy off from the edge and then subdues the parademon. The parademon explodes, and it shows like a 3 mother box thing in its blood. And he's like, oh, man, they're getting badder. We got to assemble a team. Okay, let's break down what just happened. There's a way to make this not stupid, but they made it stupid. Batman went out on patrol, hung out on a gargoyle, and waited for somebody to commit a crime. Then he found the person committing a crime, and then he's like, okay, there's parademons around, and I know that they're around, but I can't find them, but I know they're scared of fear, so I'm going to make a criminal scared, and I'm going to do this by dangling them off of the edge, and then like basically using them as bait and on my fishing pole, and then they're going to come up, and then I'm going to subdue them so it can explode, so we can have more evidence of a 3 mother box design, which you'd only really be familiar with if you saw the Ultimate Edition of Batman vs. Superman. And then he just leaves the guy on the roof and then goes away. It's like, oh, we got to get a team together. This is so arbitrary. Like, you've been reading about this and you've known about these parademons, it seems, for a while. Why? And then it seems like Alfred already knows all this stuff. He seems like he's only saying this because he knows there's an audience watching him, and we got to establish a catalyst for the plot. I remember I was like watching this thinking, what? Here's how you make it not stupid. Like, have us clue in that he's trying to find a specific parademon, and he's trying to get some kind of information out of it, and he doesn't get the information out of it. It explodes, and look, I can't find a way to make the 3 mother box symbol as it explodes not stupid. That's just dumb. How does like it make a 3, like the negative space in its blood make that look that way? I don't know. That's dumb. And it's kind of comic booky in a weird way, and it doesn't gel with the faux comic bookiness of the rest of the film. And it honestly, in a comic book, it wouldn't even fly. It wouldn't. I read enough comics to know. No, that's stupid. I'm gonna get off that subject. So then after that, we get the opening credits, which are bad. One second, I'm gonna drink a little bit. See if anyone's talking about. People are talking about before I move into the opening credits. So, oh yeah, Nathan says, oh yeah, it's Batman chasing a parademon just like the New 52 Justice League. Issue 1 still was dumb. Why was that criminal follow Batman on the next rooftop? Were they working together as bait or something? Yeah, that's a good question. Then why would he shoot at him? This is dumb. Yeah, it is clearly a reference to Justice League #1 by Jeff Johns and Jim Lee. That story's not very good. That first issue is not very good. Okay, and it's even less good here than it is there. Oh, and J.K. Simmons with Jim Gordon hair looks so funny to me. Yeah, you know how when an old man has like thinning hair, you can like see his scalp beneath his hair because it's thin? This was clearly a wig because you can't really see his scalp beneath his thinning hair. Yeah, and the Nero Cole agrees that it was hilarious and that the explosion was so bad. But not like the Power Glove. So let's dig into the opening credits. So that cover of Everybody Knows is really lame. It sounds like the local coffee shop high school blondie that's really into veganism for a couple of months. It sounds like her. Like she's the one that recorded that. I mean, she's a better singer than I could ever be. But like, come on, man, that is a Leonard Cohen song, and I mean, this is a Zack Snyder scene. I can really tell this whole thing really plays off like a poor man's version of the Watchmen opening credits, which is the best part of Watchmen. And I don't like the Watchmen movie very much. But that being said, I think its best scene is its opening credits, which should not be a dog against the opening credits of Watchmen. They are excellent opening credits. Like, they're up there with some of the best James Bond opening credits. I love it. And in Watchmen, they actually do have a Leonard Cohen song. During the Notorious sex scene, they play Hallelujah, the Leonard Cohen version. And I wish they would have played the Leonard Cohen version here. Maybe they thought that would have been in poor taste because Leonard Cohen died last year, except, oh wait, something later in the scene. Oh my god. So I don't like the choice of, and the song is a little too on the nose for what we're getting. That's just a Snyder thing. His song choices are on the nose. That's just mostly a taste thing. So the reason this opening doesn't really work for me, though, is it portrays Superman as a person he never really was. Except in that opening cell phone footage. In that very brief thing, he's acting more wholesome and open and kind than he ever was. At least we never saw him that way in Man of Steel or BVS, and we never really got to see Superman doing stuff outside of montages in Batman versus Superman that was just day-to-day stuff. And so that's a big problem with that movie, and it's a problem here as a result. And the way it portrays Superman is, oh man, all the world is in darkness because Superman isn't here. But everyone was against Superman in Batman versus Superman. That was the whole thing, is it seemed like most people that we saw didn't like Superman. We were told there was a big debate going on, but Superman was really paying attention to those who were against him. And which makes sense, people maybe focus on that stuff, but for the sake of who Superman is, it doesn't really work because we didn't see that. The basic rule of storytelling, show don't tell. And we are told and shown people who mostly disliked Superman. And so the world being plunged into darkness because Superman isn't here doesn't fly in this series. Also, it portrays the world differently. So how I said the world didn't really like Superman? Well, it's like, oh man, Muslim bakeries are getting harassed by skinheads, and what's the world coming to? And it's oh man, this old person, he's a homeless man, and he just has melodramatically written "I tried" on his little piece of cardboard. And it's like, what's this world coming to? How is this world any different than what it was in Man of Steel and Batman versus Superman? How is it any different? We barely saw the world outside of the military. We hardly saw that. We saw journalists. We never saw them really outside except to quickly get taken away. And we saw military people. How is this world any okay, that really bugs me. And then that's why this opening scene, these opening credits really bug me as a way of establishing the stakes in this film. But also stupid, that newspaper is hilarious. Sudden disappearance of heroes. Prince. David Bowie, Superman, the world's just hopeless, and we're playing this Leonard Cohen song, and he died last year too. This movie is so 2016. That's not going to date this movie at all. Oh wow, interesting. So Nathan Snyder's commenting, saying there was a bit in the opening credits where a homeless guy had a sign that said "I tried." It was funny, and then next cut had the credit directed by Zack Snyder, and he found that awkward. That's funny. Zack Snyder saying "I tried." That might be some really mean editors and post-production people, but who knows? Yeah, that is kind of awkward. That's funny. All right, I'm going to try to get through this a little bit faster. I've been at this for a while. Okay, so Steppenwolf's arrival is a generic action scene that is meant to establish the conflict and the stakes of the conflict, and it's supposed to show off Steppenwolf as a formidable foe. The problem is Steppenwolf sucks. And the the footage appears incomplete. It almost looks like a 300 test footage. This is kind of what I want 300 to look like. This obviously isn't finished, but this is kind of what an idea. That's the way the finished movie looks. And there's some footage of like Steppenwolf appearing in front of the Amazonians in the trailers, and it is a different color. Like the color correction is completely different. I still don't think that looks particularly good. It looks much better than what we got here. This is embarrassing. He first showed up, I thought it looked like a PS3 cutscene, and his that whole scene is really kind of incoherent, and it's like I said, it's kind of a generic action scene to get the ball rolling, but it was more confusing than anything. What with the like when they shoot the mother box with an arrow and then a horse falls on someone, I'm like, oh no, is Queen Hippolyta dead? Is female me dead? Oh no, she's not. I just got it all mixed up. And then when you see like all the horses coming over the side, like it looks so bad. I can't stress this is the worst CG I've ever seen. There's not like so I dislike it when people just go, oh man, oh the CG, am I right? It just feels like a platitude, like it's a nothing word, like you throw it out there and then the people listening just sort of go, yeah, bad CG, and they don't really, it doesn't really, it's just kind of an easy way out. Like I can't stress enough just how bad the green screen and CG looks. It actually looks like a video game. And I'm not being hyperbolic. It looks like a video game and not a current generation video game. It sucks so much. It looks so bad. So a lot of the opening stuff here, the first half, is Batman and Wonder Woman recruiting the others. And it is a tedious bore, and the reshoots are obvious. I mentioned earlier where Aquaman is like in front of a green screen in the close-ups, and then wide shot, it looks fine. Also in that scene, and this is just mostly a nitpick, but it's kind of funny to think about. I got to go recruit a team, and now we got to get a team together. The threat's coming. So I'm going to take 4 months. I'm going to grow up this really cool beard. I'm going to go, and then when I go to Iceland, I look like I'm supposed to be there, and then I'll just shave it off. I'll just have this really cool 4-month-old beard just for that scene. Okay, Batman, take your time. These scenes I found to be quite tedious because a lot of these heroes are reluctant. And sure, you want to make your heroes reluctant. They're all reluctant. Cyborg and Aquaman are reluctant. Aquaman, fine, I'll come along. I need friends. So the reason I find Cyborg and Aquaman to be kind of a tedious bore here is their angst and their brooding and their reluctancy. It doesn't relate to the audience because we don't know use of them in Batman versus Superman, but who are they? Why are they broody? Why should I care? I already have, a storm coming. I already have a Batman who premeditated murder of Superman. I already have a Wonder Woman who's like, okay, let's fight. Batman seems like he's ready to fight and die in battle. It could just be these two people going out, and all they really ended up doing is going to be resurrecting Superman. They don't even really need to be in the final battle, but whatever. It does feel like time. We're trying to knock out time on the clock. We got to make you feel like we need to have Aquaman be reluctant. So, speaking of going to Atlantis, okay, so it's really convenient. It's like, oh yeah, I'm a loner. I don't really do the Atlantis thing. Go down to Atlantis. Conveniently, a Steppenwolf shows up, and then because it's like the throne of Atlantis's responsibility to combat Steppenwolf, Amber Heard, she plays Mera. She tells Aquaman, "This is your responsibility now. You are the daughter of the former queen of Atlantis." Is he though? Like he talks about how she abandoned him, and he's been mostly like a surface dweller and a loner. Who is on the throne of Atlantis? Is it Orm? Is Orm on the? Why isn't it his responsibility? Why is it not Orm's responsibility? Oh no, we're only saying this so that Aquaman can see Steppenwolf and he was reluctant because he'd go to Atlantis, see Steppenwolf, steal a mother box, get persuaded by Mera to maybe go like it's just so we can set up his movie. We didn't need any of this. And I mean, maybe we can see Steppenwolf take out the Atlanteans and steal the mother box. Maybe we can see that, but we'd just be subject to seeing more of Steppenwolf. But it at least would have made more sense. Like we don't need this. And Aquaman is such a non-character. I don't get what's driving him. It feels like there's a scene missing between him, between this scene where we set up his movie and then when he shows up for an inexplicable reason where I guess he just knew where everyone was. Oh well. So that scene was really hackneyed to me and really kind of convenient. Where am I on these notes? Oh yeah, and then Barry Allen. Okay, let's talk about Ezra Miller. People, let me look at the chat. I think everyone. I'll get to Ezra Miller in a second. People have already started talking about him in the comments. 1 second. The Hobbit looks better, and that doesn't even look that good, says Joel Davis. You're right. Yeah, what you said exactly. Miracle says Lord of the Rings, a film that is a decade old. Does it look and sound like 1,000 times better? It's actually almost 2 decades old, and it does look and sound better than this. Let's see. Anybody got any questions? Oh, that's right. Willem Dafoe was going to be in this movie. Thank you, Nathan Snyder. Willem Dafoe was going to play Volko, who is basically like Aquaman's Alfred, to anyone who doesn't know. First off, why would you cut... It's a cardinal sin to like cut Willem Dafoe from anything. He's Willem Dafoe. You don't cut him, but that's weird. Okay, that's weird. Okay. By the way, I know this is like a weird like lizard brain like chauvinist male thing. I don't care. We got Amber Heard to play Mara. Okay, that's nice, and she has the red hair. Life is good. At least that was good. But I'm going to see more of that in the Aquaman movie. So, all right, that's cool. Let's talk about Flash. Let's talk about something not cool. So Ezra Miller's performance as the Flash has been the subject of a lot of ridicule. I think rightfully so, to some degree. I find him very annoying. I liked him for his first 2 or 3 scenes. Then he started to really grate on me. When he's like, "It's a cave! A bat cave!" Like from that moment on, I was like, all right, I'm done. Uh-oh. And then he'll have like those like awkward social moments. Like he's just the comedy relief character, and I don't see him leading his own movie because he's really only the comic relief character. He'll have, "Oh, is this a bad time to bring up my blood sugar? Get it? I'm socially awkward." Come on. Try harder than that. Do better than that. I did like Snack Hole. I thought Snack Hole was funny. The brunch rambling, I got a chuckle out of me. I mean, obviously like that scene. Like I was talking with Rasco about this, and he pointed this out to me. That scene was clearly supposed to end at, "I need friends." But then that whole brunch rambling, it's like a different composition. His hair is different. It's hilarious. I did like Billy Crudup as Barry's dad, though. I like Billy Crudup in general, and it also does seem like the cast of The Watchmen is taking over the DCU. Carla Gugino plays in Batman v Superman. She plays like a robot in the Metropolis. Sorry, yeah, in the crashed Kryptonian spaceship in Metropolis, which, by the way, that's still there. All right, I guess Star Labs just set up shop in there. But then we also have Patrick Wilson plays the voice of the President of the United States, and we get Billy Crudup, who was, of course, Dr. Manhattan here. So what was I saying? Oh, yeah, Flash. Him running is hilarious. And like this is weird because I feel like I'm just kind of pointing and laughing at this movie at this point. But him running, it looks like this awkward dance. Like he's like, and whenever he did that, like people in my theater laughed. Like I get that he's socially awkward and he's different, but why doesn't he run normally? It's such a strange choice. I don't know if it's trying to like put in some character here or not, but it's laughable. It was a bad creative choice that didn't pan out, and it was distracting, which I think is enough of a complaint, but it's not like a cardinal sin. I don't know. I feel like I'm almost like nitpicking that at that point, but his running was weird. Oh, apparently the Flash TV show does the running better. Anything would be better than this, but I don't doubt that. I don't watch the Flash, the show. So I talked about the Aquaman scene and how it's dumb, and how the reluctancy doesn't register. So let's talk about Diana's prologue monologue. This is like a Lord of the Rings scene, and it's I highly doubt I'm the first person to come up with this. I think maybe even my brother mentioned this, put this in my head. But the mother boxes are like the rings. Like 9 went to the men, and then 1 went to the elves, and then there was the 1 ring to rule them all. Like this one is like, all right, 1 went to Atlantis, one went to the tribes of men. It got buried somewhere, and then 1 went to Themyscira. And what this is supposed to do is the flashback where it's the forces of the world united to fight Steppenwolf. That is supposed to set up the climax and the finale of this, where it's almost like the Justice League is supposed to represent the unity of mankind in that prologue, in like personified as the Justice League, to fight Steppenwolf the second time. That's what it all. I think that this is what it's setting up. We get some stuff there like a Green Lantern. There's no Green Lantern in this movie, but it's almost like, look at guys, it's a Green Lantern. You've seen Green Lantern? Well, here's a Green Lantern. We got Zeus. Look how cool Zeus looks. Look at him. And you know what though? For the most part, like this almost felt like I would have rather seen this than the first Steppenwolf action scene where he shows up and takes care of the Amazons, because this felt like this did feel more like a broad Greek tragedy sort of thing, or like a Shakespearean, and this happened and then this happened and then he left, and that way Steppenwolf is more of like a concept than a character, and it's more like we're fighting the concept of a world dominator than an actual world dominator who has his own character. But because we do like see him as a person in action more, we do think of him more as a character than a plot device. And I think honestly, this guy would have been worked better as a plot device. He kind of is, but they do try to interject character into him, and I don't think it works. When I say Steppenwolf sucks, I want to say that like the reason he sucks isn't I don't find him to be a monumentally bad villain. I think that his character design is bad. I think the CG work on him is ludicrously bad. He seemingly changes size on numerous occasions, and his proportions are weird. Like he's a tiny head and huge arms, and he only seems to have articulation in his mouth, and he has these weird beady eyes, and he looks like a PS3 cutscene. What more can I say about him? That's all there really is to him. He strikes me as just as bad as Malekith, like just as bad as something like, I don't know, like a Marvel villain. He's just as bad as Malekith or Ronan the Accuser to me. Except Ronan the Accuser was at least serviceable as like a straight man in a comedy act. I didn't think that Steppenwolf sucks. Whatever, you get my point. All right, so I finished my first page of notes. Let's see what you people are saying. Oh dear, well, there's a lot of people. Okay, one second, one at a time. So they said this movie ripped off Lord of the Rings. Yes, it does. There's Snoke references. Oh well, nothing really going on there. I also felt like that thing was supposed to be like the opening of the movie, like the whole thing with Steppenwolf fighting the forces of man and stuff. That almost would have worked better as an opening sequence, I feel. So as I said before, the Justice League all like coming together was kind of boring and rote, and Cyborg was kind of boring. I don't think I said that, but he was just kind of, his reluctancy didn't feel earned to me. He's just kind of a broody guy, and why should I care about his broodiness? But this leads us to our first confrontation with Steppenwolf, and it's lousy. So why is there windows underwater or underground? How did Steppenwolf know to go here? Can he just feel the presence of the mother box, but doesn't know exactly where it is? But he knows the Star Labs people have it, and they have an action scene, and then Batman sucks at fighting in this movie because the only person that actually does anything in this movie is Superman when he shows up, and then Aquaman just knows to show up and be like, "Here I am, guys. How did you get here?" And then Steppenwolf catches a missile, and then instead of like shooting it at the heroes, he aims it at a wall, and then Cyborg just kind of ditches them so he could go grab the mother box, and then he sort of ditched them while the water was rising, and then when he left him, it cut to like the next scene where he grabbed the mother box and they're in the Batcave. So how did they get out of that pickle? It's so choppy and weird, and then there's lazy filmmaking, like when Cyborg's like, "Never, it's okay, Alfred, I'll take it from here." It's just like they just turn the camera upside down, and like the sparks fly, and it looks like instead of like they're like falling down, it looks like they're flying up, but they turned it upside down, which is funny because later in that very same scene, he flips over the Nightcrawler, which is I think what they're calling that Batman device, and it's just the exact same shot. They just flipped it upside down. That's like iMovie stuff right there. Come on, that's so lazy. And also, let's talk about reshoots again. Cyborg's like, "Never mind, Alfred, I'll take it from here." And then Alfred's like, "Do I know you?" "Yeah, he's Cyborg. I think you guys have talked before." Ugh. So let's talk about there's some obligatory stuff here with Batman and Diana, and they kind of talk, but their scenes feel mostly like ways to get us to the next plot point. Okay, we need to establish that Batman feels this way so that we can get to this plot point. And so this leads us to Superman's resurrection scene. It's terrible and the worst part of the film. I hate this scene with every fiber of my being. It's so bad. So when he gets resurrected, first off, so Diana is like, "No, you can't bring people back from the dead. That's not right. I will not stand with you to do this." And then she just shows up and says, "Oh, I'm here for him." So you've already accepted they're going to bring him back one way or the other. I'm not going to try to stop them. Might as well just be here for the fireworks. What? And then they bring Superman back to life. There's no sense of awe. There's no wonder. They try to play it almost like a horror movie, and he's just evil just because. Although, I got to ask, is resurrection like a thing in this universe? Because it's like they don't know how he's going to be when he comes back, but Batman prepared Lois to come in case he wasn't all hunky-dory. Then why didn't he just bring Lois to begin with? Why is she a contingency plan? And then later, Lois tells Clark, "Oh, your recovery process is going so much better than we thought. You have some place to be." So Batman knew that he would need a recovery process. So why didn't you just bring Lois in to begin with? What's the point of having, "Oh, we need to have Superman come back and be evil so we can have an action scene"? Woo! And I think this is probably where we're going to talk about Henry Cavill's removed upper lip. Everyone is making fun of this, and I didn't really notice it. Maybe I will notice it in repeat viewings. I can't wait to watch this with some friends, crack open some Fireball, laugh it up. This is an easily riffable movie. It's hilarious at times, which is more than what I can say about Suicide Squad. So maybe it's got that. Whatever. It's just another turd. But I can't even remember what I was saying. My bad. Okay, so Superman. Oh yeah, Superman's upper lip. I didn't really notice it. Maybe it's because everything else in this movie looks so horrible. It maybe doesn't look as bad as everything else, but maybe I'll notice it on repeat viewings. Okay, so the fight choreography is extraordinarily lazy and simplistic, almost like it's a reshoot. And then Aquaman's like, yeah, you're right, Diana. This is before they bring him back to life. They're like, yeah, Diana, this is a bad idea. And then they just stand there and watch. You're not going to resist that at all? Why not? How come we're all treating this is like Flash's one time to bring Superman back to life when you can just try it a few times? What's the point in that? And then like Steppenwolf just comes down in boom tubes, and I was told that this is the same thing in every version of the movie. They're all distracted by fighting Superman. That nobody thought, gee, we better not leave this mother box out in the open for people to look at, or so that someone can take it. And then Steppenwolf just knows that it's not being protected, and then comes down and then takes it away. Oh man, this Justice League sucks. No one on this team was good at their jobs. Hey, Flash, run over there faster than light. You see that boom tube, just haul it over there and pick it up and come back. Nope. Oh man, they got all 3 boom tubes. Now there's an action climax we have to prepare for. Time for the 3rd act to start. Oh man, this movie sucks so much. I'm gonna look at what people are saying again. Yes, Nathan Snyder, I agree. Superman watching Flash running in slow motion kind of reminded me of Quicksilver versus Apocalypse fight and X-Men Apocalypse. It did have that similar vibe. Why would they risk making Superman a monster instead of Lazarus? Well, I don't know if Lazarus pits work. Maybe Batman knew because he had experiences with Lazarus pits. Maybe we should establish that people know bringing people back to life might not be a good idea. Maybe we should establish that kind of stuff. Maybe that would make sense. But no. Okay. According to the deleted stuff, there was a hint that he was alive thanks to the Codex back from... Stupid movie. Stupid movie. They brought the... Okay, they brought the Codex back, and then they're like, nope, cut it out. Yeah, because Rasco had brought this up, and I agree. Like, Batman's like, his cells are dormant. It's still absorbing radiation. Wait, how do you know that? I guess maybe Cyborg would have... Cyborg said that, like, everyone's like, well, how come they know that this can bring Superman back? Cyborg's like, well, it brought me back to life, and they're like, well, we suck. We might as well bring Superman back to life. Maybe Cyborg read it, like, maybe, but was that before they met Cyborg? I don't know. I don't know how they were able to get a DNA reading on Superman, but if they brought the Codex back, what? Stupid? Wow. Oh my lord, that makes that whole scene even worse. Wow. Yeah, so there was a lot of deleted scenes, it seems, and stuff that would have at least made this feel almost like the ending of like Snyder's trilogy, almost like he did Man of Steel, then he would do Batman v Superman, and then his quadrilogy, but his last movie in his trilogy would be like a 2-parter. Okay, wow, that's stupid. Yeah, why didn't Lois... Oh, and okay, another dumb part. He's gonna risk getting his head... Like, how come Superman can remember some things but not remember other things? He remembers hating Batman, and then we get that part where he's like, tell me, do you bleed? And I thought I was gonna contract something. Like, why would you make it... Okay, that's clearly a reshoot, because I've seen that extreme close-up still, and everyone's like, look how bad his mustache removal is. And that's the part where I think it is a little noticeable. So everyone hated Batman versus Superman. You sold that movie on, tell me, do you bleed? You will. We sold people on that line. And we're trying to distance ourselves from Batman v Superman as much as possible. But we're going to call back, tell me, do you bleed? I think that line just is really stupid. It sounds like a kindergartner wrote that line. And it's not a good enough line to make a callback for. This is all just a taste thing. If people like that line, they like the callback. That's cool. I can't really say objectively why I think that line is dumb. I just think it's stupid and it sounds like a kid wrote it. So yeah. And then that leads to the worst joke in the movie, where he just kind of goes like, "Oh, Lois," and then throws Batman over his shoulder, which I don't think was supposed to be funny. And then everyone in our theater laughed. And then he's lying on the ground. Batman's like, "Oh, yep, something's definitely bleeding." It's so not funny. Why did they include that? It's like, was this an outtake from Thor Ragnarok? Like, what? I like Thor Ragnarok. I find that movie funny, but this, stylistically speaking, it felt like something out of Thor Ragnarok, where it felt like a quick aside, like, ooh, it's kind of funny, and it felt like we kind of just cut over to that, and it's this quick side of thing. I don't understand. This whole scene is so dumb. Now let's talk about Superman in this movie. This is a good transition to that. I actually feel like guilty for saying this, but I like when Henry Cavill's in the Superman suit and he comes on in and he's like, "Well, hiya, Steppenwolf. I have a thing for hope, but I also have a thing for justice, or like truth, but I also got a thing for justice." And then he smacks him, and then it's like, "Oh my God, guys, it's Superman. He's been absent for like approximately 5 hours of celluloid, but here he is. Well, 6 hours of celluloid, but here he is. Yay! He's actually acting like Superman. He's like, "Hey, a slowpoke," and he's carrying buildings full of people to upstage. Like, he feels like Superman. This is great. But it's cinematic junk food. It's bad for you. It doesn't actually make sense in the context of this story. And no one's acting like he's any different. Everyone's like, "Oh, it's that Superman we all know and love." He's acting nothing like prior Superman. He's not acting like him. And that is dumb. Why is nobody commenting on this? Why is there no conversation about this? He's clearly, they're just like acting like it's always been this way, right, fans? No, it hasn't. Shame on you. But also, it comes out of nowhere. So he gets brought back to life, and because Lois and Clark have like the most toxic relationship in like since 50 Shades of Grey, I think. So I think maybe that's getting more tasteful than this relationship. So we got basically what we have here is Superman is like a pussy whipped love slave of Lois Lane, and then he's this homicidal crazy maniac. Well, I mean, he always was, but he's the really homicidal crazy maniac. And then Lois Lane just goes like, "Clark," in front of like a bunch of people. She's like, "Clark," and it's like, "Oh, okay." Yeah, we all know he's Clark. Okay, so much for secret identities. Although he did die, so did anyone put the connection? Oh well, whatever. And he's like, "Lois," and he just discards Batman like a rag, and then he comes home to get for the recovery process to Ma Kent's foreclosed home. Are they sleeping on the ground? I don't know. And then he's like, "Oh man, yeah, I'm feeling so much better." And he's acting like Clark did from Man of Steel and Batman versus Superman. And the only people we see him interact with after that are Ma Kent and Lois Lane. And he's just acting normal, like we've seen him in the previous two movies, to them, the way he's always acted to them. And then it's like, okay, the recovery process is all complete. I'm like, oh, okay, so he's Superman. Then he comes back and he's like a big old Boy Scout. Hold on now. You're trying to say that his Clark persona, this is what I'm saying, where it's like the film is trying to pass Superman off as a new character. They're showing us a new character and trying to pass it off as he's always been like this. No, he hasn't. Yeah, you see, look at his Clark self is the same. He's interacting with Ma Kent and Lois the exact same way. So I'm expecting him to be kind of like a more quiet, somber Superman. No, it's a completely different character, and I like, in isolation, I like that. But I have to acknowledge that this exists in a context of a bigger world and multiple film story, and it does not click at all. So as much as I like Henry Cavill's portrayal of an actual Superman, it doesn't work. And I have to be objective. That doesn't work, and it kind of hurts knowing we could have had this all along, but we didn't. And it's inconsistent, so it's just a cluster. So this is another thing I got to bring up. The Justice League doesn't do anything in their own movie. They bring Superman back. They try to fend off Steppenwolf. Wonder Woman is the only person who can like really hold him back, but she doesn't really show any results. And then Superman shows up and saves the day. So this whole thing where we set up like the Justice League is like it is a new version of the every people on Earth united to stop Steppenwolf so many years ago in the past. This is a new version of that. It doesn't work because they don't work together to stop him. Superman just does it all for them, which is the same problem that I think like. Well, no, that's a comic book thing. Sorry, I was trying to connect that with another thing in these movies, but Superman just solves everyone's problems for them, and like, come on, you gotta be kidding me. Like, they don't. This is like, in Suicide Squad where it's like, oh, Amanda Waller says we need a Suicide Squad. See, look there's an Enchantress. We need a Suicide Squad to stop it. But that wouldn't exist if you didn't start the Suicide Squad in the first place. And they go in there with a bunch of soldiers to begin with. So what's even the point of sending in the Suicide Squad? We have a Justice League. We got to join together to stop a threat. Oh, we're not doing so hot at this. Now let's just bring Superman back. He'll save the day. They don't do anything. They don't actually contribute to anything in this movie outside of bringing Superman back to life, which didn't even really need to happen in Batman versus Superman. So it does feel just like a plot device so Batman can get the team together. And when you really pull back, Superman's death is an ultra-contrived way of bringing the Justice League back together because, oh no, a huge threat's coming. We need to bring the Justice League together. Now eliminate that threat with Superman. Now we have a Justice League. Sweet. It's ultra-contrived. This is like a contrivance spanning 2 films. Steppenwolf sucks, and the ending is bad. So the ending is just like showing you, look at guys, it's the DC universe, like and love. No, screw you, movie. Don't play that game with me. I feel like it's insulting my intelligence. That's basically my thoughts on Justice League. I hate about everything about the score. You play the John Williams musical theme when Superman's acting like a deranged lunatic and crushing people in stone walls, and he's like, dun 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. That's what okay, whatever. No, it's Superman. He's back. Don't you feel awe and wonder? He's acting like a crazy homicidal maniac. So I'm against this whole philosophy of using previous music, different iterations of characters' theme music in this. And Danny Elfman's like, no, that's their theme. That's the way it's going to play. I'm going to use Wonder Woman's theme because it's in Wonder Woman. I'm going to use my theme for Batman because that's the theme for Batman, and then I'm going to use John Williams' Superman theme because that's the theme song of Superman. And Danny Elfman feels that that new interpretations of the character need to use that music because that is their music. And if anyone else does anything, then it's an ego trip on the part of the new directors and musicians. I think that is lame, and I don't agree with that. So here's the thing. We have new interpretations of characters, and having music selected for those interpretations of the characters, I think, is an important way of telling us this is a different character. It's still Superman, but it's a new interpretation of that. So grade us on our own curve. Take us at our own value. And on top of that, say what I will about Man of Steel, Hans Zimmer's musical score for Man of Steel is brilliant. I think it's misused often in that movie, but it is a brilliant score. And playing John Williams' Superman theme feels like emotional manipulation. Gee, we couldn't make you care about this Superman in like 5 hours of 2 other movies. So we're going to play on your expectations and your nostalgia and your heartstrings and what people like. We're going to play on that to manipulate them into liking this, because when they hear that music, they think of Superman and they appreciate that thought of Superman and they like that. And now we're going to take that away and turn it to this direction so you can like this Superman in a subliminal, subconscious way that you like that Superman. Screw you. That is so wrong-headed and dumb. And same thing with the Batman score. Yeah, I didn't like Junkie XL's music for Batman and Batman v Superman, but that's the music. Maybe alter it a little bit. Take that composition, tweak it a little bit. come up with something new. Say, okay, that was a crazy homicidal Batman, but now he's a good Batman in Justice League, and he's turning into the right Batman in Justice League. So we're gonna tweak it a little bit and maybe give him a new theme. If you guys don't really like that theme, okay, we'll make it different. So the whole thing is maddening, and I think wrong-headed on a lot of levels. So that's basically my thoughts on Justice League. I hate this movie. I think it's the worst superhero movie ever made. I like the Justice League. I like DC Comics. I love this universe, but I really, really, really dislike this movie a lot. It's not the worst movie of the year. You know, Resident Evil, the final chapter came out this year. Transformers, Michael Bay released a Transformers movie. The Emoji movie's out. The Smurfs movie came out. I think this is worse than The Mummy, because The Mummy is still terrible, but I mean, I don't care about The Mummy. I don't really have an affinity for the Universal monsters. I respect their history and pop culture, but I like the Justice League. You know, I'm close to this. This is something that's close to my heart, and it's so botched and ruined. I mean, luckily though, nobody's career is probably going to end from this movie. That's a good thing. Joss Whedon's still going to get work, even though he's a complete douchebag. From real life accounts and the way he's been treating this movie, like, come on, man. But I don't think Ben Affleck's career is over. He won Best Picture. I don't think, although, you know, scandal stuff, but whatever. Mel Gibson's come back from, I think, worse. I don't think, you know, Snyder's tragedy, I think, kind of gives him a veto from you know, not getting what he'll work again. I think he's already working on an adaptation of like The Fountainhead or something. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Justice League. Let's just so people watching, thank you. So let's have a Q&A session. I can answer some questions. So let's look at some comments right now. The thing is, they play the that's something else. Oh yeah, death being itchy. Miracle brought that up. That is not funny. It's like, it's so weird. It's like, how was death? It was itchy. So your body fell asleep and it was kind of itchy, or were you in a wooden casket and that's what made it itchy? Also, you smell nice. Okay, so I guess being dead, but getting resurrected in weird Kryptonian piss, like that'll bring you back to life. That'll make you smell good. Okay. So we get a question from Miracle, and he asks us a pretty broad, you know, reflective question. He says, "Where do we go from here?" Well, where do we go from here? I'm not in charge of a Warner Brothers, and I don't think I should be. Where do we go from here? I say, let's just give it a rest. They gave it an effort, and then they tried it a lot of different ways. It's just not working out. I'd say close down shop. Warner Brothers is a good studio, and outside of this, they've been a creatively friendly studio too. It looks like they're going to be doing like a solo Joker movie origin story. It's like a period piece, and then they want to do a Batman movie, and I guess they'll make that. Hey, Spencer, how's it going? All right, cool. So they're going to be doing all that stuff, and maybe that's just for the better, doing Elseworld stuff, and maybe if this Joker movie works, they'll do a trilogy of Joker movies that are kind of their own little thing. And honestly, they've worked. Warner Brothers has worked better when it isn't doing stuff like world building and creating universes. And so, you know, I think the Christopher Nolan Batman movies are great. I actually think the Dark Knight trilogy gets better as it goes along. I'd say pull the plug on the extended universe. Let this franchise just die already. This movie was terrible. Batman v Superman was terrible. Man of Steel was terrible. Suicide Squad was terrible. Wonder Woman was pretty good. 20%, right? That's good enough to keep going. So Joel Davis asks, considering the box office disappointment that seems to be taking place with Justice League, what lessons will WB take, if anything? Oh, they're learning, don't shell out $300 million for a piece of crap. I think they were really writing on this because it's like they promised Justice League. It's a superhero team up that seems to be what really worked for Marvel. Was Avengers that, and then Guardians of the Galaxy also really worked. That was like a team stuff. They're thinking we promised Justice League. We're already like $300 million into this movie $200 million into this movie as much as we are. Let's just try to let's just get this out of the way. I think what they're going to do, what they're going to learn is spend less. That's really what I think they're mostly going to learn. And I think what they're going to learn is that if they want to be the creatively friendly studio, don't go the cinematic universe route. I think that when you bring in auteurist talent like Christopher Nolan, or even a Zack Snyder, as much as I don't like him, I don't think he's a good storyteller. He's an auteurist. He does take full creative control over his properties. He's an auteur. I should say auteur. Auteurist theory is whatever. They work better when it's not like the house style, and trying to have a bunch of different visionaries' takes on characters under one house. It's not going to get far before it doesn't feel like a universe that you can play in. And as much as I don't, I prefer auteurist cinema over businessman stuff. But to build a cinematic universe, maybe you do need the Kevin Feige business level thinking kind of stuff. That's what you need for this sort of stuff. That's my takeaway, anyways. So I think that what we can learn is bring in creative powerhouses and let them just make their own stuff. And that's it. Let Marvel do the cinematic universe. You don't need to do it. Let's see. They did mention they wanted to use Flashpoint as a backup plan in case that what happened with Justice League. I don't know if they've mentioned they were going to use that as a backup plan. That seems like a really clever way, but people don't seem to like this Flash. I mean, some critics like him, and he's kind of the silly, jokey one, so there's going to be fans of that one no matter what. But I don't really. But if you're going to do Flashpoint, then you need to keep this Flash. You can change everything else. You can keep, you can change or keep things the same. Like you can keep Wonder Woman the same, but you also need to keep Flash the same. And I don't. But though Flashpoint does seem like a logical way to take at least what we set up in the story. He does get a job at the crime labs. Although, how did he get Flash powers if he's not working at a crime lab in this universe? He just still got struck by lightning and doused by chemicals. How convenient. He was in high school when it happened this time, where he was in college. How is Flash off the grid and has 3 jobs? How does that work?
Do that again?
How does Flash work 3 or 4 jobs, but he's off the grid?
Yeah, I'm sure at least, if not all of them, would require direct deposit.
Yeah, Social Security. I'm off the grid. I'm so hard to find. I work 4 jobs. Okay.
How does he have that place? He's off the grid.
I mean, he's fast. He can steal stuff. Oh, how does he like? Is it like a foreclosed place that he's hiding out in?
But yeah, he's always moving around. How does he have all that place? Does he move that from place to place?
Oh, something is held for review. Let's see. I don't know why that is held for review. So hold on. So where was I? So I've heard. Yeah. So I think though, like with Barry Allen, we set up his relationship with his father and how we do that whole thing, and how his father's in prison and he believes he's wrongfully imprisoned for the death of his mother. So doing Flashpoint to go back in time to stop his mother's death seems like a logical way to take this character from what's established here. It took like years for us to get to that place in Jeff Johns' run, and with like the Flash TV show, I guess it took us 2 seasons. And like the start of the 3rd season, we did Flashpoint, and then this is going to take us like 1 Justice League movie before we get to that point. That's weird, and it's just like a get out of jail free card. Oh no, this next thing doesn't work out. Let's do Flashpoint again. Whatever. So yeah, King Arthur bombed, and so did Blade Runner 2049. Here's the thing, though. I think Blade Runner 2049 can finally sleep easy at night. It's not the biggest bomb of 2017. At least I don't think it is. Like, it didn't cost $300 million, and it, yeah, yeah. King Arthur sucked. It was really bad. Um, what was the point of bringing Jeff Johns in to help? I don't know. Publicity for the comic book community? I don't know. Do you think any of these post JL films will be made? Flash doesn't even have a director. I don't know. Aquaman is being made right now. James Wan, I think they finished filming it or something. Either way, if we had a redhead Amber Heard Mara and I don't get to see that in the movie, I'm going to be heartbroken. It's part of my ginger genocide theory. We're just eradicating redheads from Emma Stone. Get your hair blonde. Jessica Chastain, cover up that red hair with a wig. Amy Adams, she's more blonde. we gotta get rid of all the redheads, which is a shame, because whatever. But yeah, I think they'll release Aquaman. Outside of that, I don't know. I think they'll just like tell their people, okay, finish what you got. We'll do whatever later. We'll close house though. The Batman, I think they'll move forward with the Batman, but it won't take place in this continuity. Flash whines about not keeping a job, just like the awful Justice League TV pilot. That's true. Oh, he doesn't whine about not being able to keep a job. He's like, I have to have all of these jobs so that he has like 3 or 4 jobs at the same time. Yeah, Lois Lane is superfluous in this movie. She has no place. She is just there because Lois and Clark have a creepy love slave relationship where Lois is like, man, I don't have my boy toy around me. I just lost all my motivation. You know, I don't want to write the big articles anymore. I want to do the puff pieces. Just like if Clark were here. So we robbed Lois Lane of her agency too. I guess I understand she's grieving, but she's like almost unrecognizable. There was no point in bringing in Lois to talk with Ma Kent. That was just sort of like, oh yeah, these characters, you know, they both loved Clark, and we never had them on screen together for some reason. Put them in there. This has to feel like something of a sequel to Batman versus Superman. Yeah, and Lois Lane has always felt tacked on. I feel like in Man of Steel, her inclusion only makes everything feel more convoluted. Like, she found out about Clark being an alien just same time around he did, and so Zod can come around, and so she can write a story so that everyone kind of are like, so there's a bit of a conspiracy to cover her up, and so it's like, yeah, that's always been weird. Like, she's always made everything a little bit more convoluted, and she's only just there so Superman can save her. And they defied the laws of gravity where everything else is getting sucked up into a vortex, except for Lois Lane, so Superman can save her. Yeah. I think I'm just about done now, guys. I'm probably going to turn it in now. Thank you for the people showing up live. Might do this again sometime, although I got a movie pass now, so I'm going to see more movies again. Might do more movie reviews. Probably not live, but maybe because I got camera stuff that I have to deal with, and the lighting is easier this way. So yeah, I guess that's it, folks. Thank you guys very much for showing up. I'm Connor Nielsen. Leave your thoughts on Justice League in the comments. If you agree, disagree, if I was full of crap, leave that in the comments. Sayonara.